Yeah, right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The hour is 7 o'clock. I hereby call the Laconia City Council meeting of August 22nd, 2022 at the Arnold Baltic City Council Chambers. I would mention to you that the mayor Mayor Hosmer is traveling, and he's going to join the meeting in progress. Even though we have a majority of the councilors here, if there's any votes taken tonight, it will be by roll call vote. Okay, as we progress item, I would ask that we salute the flag. Councilor Welch, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilor. We are joined by our recording secretary, Katie Gargano. Katie, would you please call the roll, please?
Councilor Cheney,
I'm here.
Councilor Susie,
Here.
Councilor Haynes,
Here.
Councilor Hamel,
Here.
Councilor Felch,
Here.
Mayor Hosmer.
I'm present on Zoom.
Thank you, Katie. Joining us at the table is our city manager, Scott Myers, and our finance officer, Glenn Smith, who's also attending to the IT.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if we could just ask the mayor if it was not reasonably practical for him to be here tonight and if he's with anybody else at this moment, so we can get that on the record.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
It's quite all right. It's not reasonably practical as I've had to leave town. I am in a room alone.
Thank you, Mayor. First on the agenda tonight is a proclamation. We ask the folks from the Mount Washington, please join me. Let it be known, hereby known to all citizens of the city of Laconia that I, Andrew J. Hosmer, Mayor, do hereby proclaim August 22nd, 2022 as Mount Washington Day in the city of Laconia and bestow the honor to recognize the 105th year anniversary of Mount Washington inaugural voyage on Lake Winnipesaukee. Whereas the first ship named the Mount Washington was a wooden wheeler, it was named the SS Mount Washington, also known as the Old Mount, and was first launched in 1872. The vessel transported cargo and travelers from one side of the lake to the other, transporting approximately 60,000 passengers a year. And whereas after the original Mount Washington was lost in a devastating fire in 1939, the new SS Mount Washington II was launched on August 12, 1940. The ship engine underwent several revisions, including replacement of the steam engine with a diesel engine and adding an extra 25 feet in length to the vessel. These revisions resulted in the ship being reclassified by maritime standards to be the SS Mount Washington as it is known today. Whereas the ship has endured generations in good times and bad, it has seen world wars, the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, of a devastating fire and economic turmoil. However, this continued to be an iconic tradition in Lake Winnipesaukee, welcoming both residents and visitors and providing a place where people can get together, relax, and enjoy the outstanding scenery of our lake. Now thereby, I call upon the citizens of Laconia to join me in recognizing the MSS Mount Washington for its steadfast commitment to our community over the past 150 years and providing an opportunity for its passengers, to experience the beauty of this region that we call home. Given under my hand the seal of the city of Laconia, the 22nd day of August in the year of our Lord, 2022, Andrew J. Hosmer, Mayor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's certainly an honor. Mayor and councilors, I appreciate the honor on behalf of the owners and crew. You know, just a few years ago, Scott and I got together and we extended the lease at the Weirs, and it was voted on by the council. And needless to say, when that lease comes up, we'll be close to 200 years. And I'll be around, but I don't think I'll be here to sign the next lease. But I know the Mount Washington that we have on that lake today should be around. There's no doubt in my mind. And the Sophie Sea, and more importantly, this company. And that to me is the most meaningful legacy that I can pass on to the next generation, like it was handed down to our generation. So thank you for the honor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you again. Okay. Thank you, folks. Item 7 on the agenda is minutes of the previous meeting. Minutes of the regular city council meeting of July 22 were distributed to the city council on August 18th. And I've been advised by the city clerk that there was a correction in 22A, I believe, on the vote. Is that correct? Yes, and it was, the vote was 5-1, not 5-0. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes, please?
So move.
Councilor Susie, second, Councilor Phelps. Thank you. Item,
You should call for the vote now.
okay, I'm sorry. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Roll call, I'm sorry. Katie, I'll get this.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes,
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Phelps.
Yes.
Katie, I'll get the hang of this.
We'll make sure you do.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is a temporary traffic order. Is a temporary traffic order 2022-12 Sox Hop in Rotary Park, the Belknap Mill. It requests to reserve parking in connection with the Sock Hop in Rotary Park on September 10th. I believe that should be 2022. Just a minor. And to waive the fees associated with the event. This year's Sock Hop in Rotary Park will be held on Friday.
So it is September 9th, so that's probably just missed in the cut and paste from last
Okay,
year's traffic.
okay. Katie, you've got that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. In connection with the event at Belknap Mill requesting that 18 reverse angle parking spots on Beacon Street East, adjacent to the Belknap Mill and Rotary Park, and the small parking lot adjacent to the Belknap Mill, as shown on the attached map, be reserved for the event as detailed in TTO 2022-12. The Sock Hop in Rotary Park will be closed out in the Arts in the Park Summer Series. Will close out the Arts in the Park Summer Series, and will feature the Rocking Gadios and a full band, a radio station with a live broadcast, and vintage 1950, 1960 vehicles. The parking spaces on Beacon Street East are necessary to accommodate some of the vintage vehicles as well as related to the band and radio station. The parking spaces in the small parking lot adjacent to the Belknap Mill will be used to display additional vintage vehicles. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilor Phelps, seconded by Councilor Hamel. Madam Clerk, call the roll, please.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Phelps,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel, I apologize.
Thank you, Katie. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. This is the time allotted for matters not on the agenda. Before we even start, I would like to say that I would like to have the comments from
the citizens that are here and online. Also, would they address the council, not individual counselors? And I ask the council not to engage with any comments made at this time. Does anyone have a comment? Mr. Smith? Okay, hearing none. We have no interviews. We have no nominations. We have no communications. We have no public hearings. I'm not sure if the mayor wants to give a report from Zoom, or Mayor, would you like to say a few words?
No, I'll reserve my time for the next meeting. Thank you, Council.
Okay. I would like to take an opportunity, since it's my night to have a few comments. I know as we move to fall and we're going to be into Patriot football and the foliage and the whole works, that we've had a great summer, but the festivities in the city are not going to come to an end. We have multicultural days, we have the Timberman, we have Pumpkin Fest, and I hope everyone will enjoy these events and what they have to offer, and especially with the Timberman, to where there is going to be so many visitors, welcome them. And if you have a chance to help out and volunteer, this is going to be a great event. Okay, moving on, council comments. Councilor Cheney,
If I might.
you certainly have,
I had a
you
couple
have
of
the
things.
floor.
One is I went to our yellow sheet directory the other day to look up some numbers, and I realized that it's not up to date. So I was hoping I could request the manager, have someone update that form for us.
Okay.
I may have missed this and just, and the only one here who doesn't know, but I was wondering what the status is of the proposal to put solar panels at the old dump.
That has dragged out a little bit, well, more than a little bit, a couple of years now, due to some legislation not passing and being, or not being signed into law by the governor, that would allow up to a 5 megawatt producing facility, if you will. And the smaller ones don't necessarily hit the break-even point for developing them. So my understanding is that the final approvals through regulatory at the state level are in place. They've extended a few times with the planning board, is my understanding. They are working with Eversource right now on how the power is going to be fed in from they refer to as the old Laconia disposal gardens, is the site we're talking about out on the backside of Governor's Crossing, out in the 11B area. So they are working right now with Eversource on connecting the feed from that site into it. And there were some changes that Eversource is in the process of reviewing. And all indications are, and I've said this before, but they will be starting construction this spring. And it's a low impact on the landfill. The company has done work like this before. DES has approved sites. They go in and they basically pre-pour slabs, if you will, and move them into the site, and then construct the solar panels on top of the slabs in there. So nothing is disturbed. There's nothing going into the ground on a capped landfill. And it's something that's been used not only in New Hampshire, but around the country. So if we stay on track, construction should begin in the spring. And I think we should be live by the end of next calendar year.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Manager.
Councilor Fauch.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, we had the Levitt Park Carnival over the weekend and we had a great time. I want to say thank you to everybody who came, and thank you to all of our wonderful volunteers. It went well.
Thank you very much. Councilor Hale, you're all set. Councilor Susie. You're okay.
Next item.
Okay, I have Committee reports. Is there any committee reports? Council Susie.
Okay, I'd like to report, we had a meeting of the Government Operations and Ordinance Committee, Councilor Cheney, myself and Councilor Felch. And we took 2 items up on our agenda that day. The first item was, as we came up with the last council meeting in regards to animals within the city. This was specifically for goats, and also we had requests on chickens. And out of the committee, the consensus and vote was that we would leave everything with, leave that part of the ordinance alone. The purpose behind it was that we did not want to set precedent to create a mass amount of requests and changes and deviations. So that's where it stands at this point. There'll be no change. There is a public hearing coming up later on in this council meeting for a change that came recommended to us from the city planner in reference to gardens, but that's the only thing that's covered there. The other item that came up at the committee was flags. And it was our consensus that on public property, city property, we would allow for, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager, is the United States flag, the state flag, and the city flag. Okay, anything else would be regulated back to private property if necessary, but not, those would be the ones that today would be put on public property. Councilor Cheney, I know you had a comment.
Councilor
May
Cheney.
I- It was my recollection, we did discuss finding a location where those flags, other flags could be flown other than directly on the city hall. Is that your recollection?
We did talk about that.
We did talk about it, yes.
Did we decide not to recommend that? I thought we did talk to the manager about that.
If I recall correctly from meeting, we discussed that, and I think at the end you thought it was appropriate not to change any policy on flags on city property, but instead allow the mayor to recognize various organizations as he saw fit on anniversaries or special weeks or months or that type of stuff, and have the city recognize groups by a mayoral proclamation as opposed to doing something with the flags, which can create some challenges of its own of then, you know, how do you regulate which flags can be flown and what they represent, so.
Yep. Thank you. Any other councilors? Liaison, oh, I'm sorry. I'd just like to, and this is, Scott, this is something I'll have to coordinate with Nancy. Public Works Committee would like to meet on Thursday at 4 o'clock.
This Thursday?
In this chambers.
Okay.
It's in reference to the container. Wes, is that? Yeah, okay.
The number of containers going
Yes.
with the automated pickup. Okay, so you're looking to do that this Thursday, which would be the 25th
Yes,
at 4 o'clock?
yes. Okay. Are there any liaison reports? I have none. Anyone? Okay, no liaison reports. Citizens request to comment on current agenda items. This is the opportunity for citizens either present or on Zoom to comment on things that are items that are on the current agenda. Mr. Smith. The mayor is our only. Okay. All right. Okay, the city manager's report. Scott, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So you have 2 updates in your packet, and then I'm going to provide a little bit additional background on what the Mayor Pro Tem spoke about with the Timberman coming up. I think it's some interesting data on the on the geographics of it, if you will, of where folks are coming from that was shared with us last week. So on road projects, Elm Street Sewer is wrapped up. We're still doing some work on Massachusetts and Jefferson. We're out of the main fair, other than some sidewalk and around the edge work. The trench patching is down. More than likely, it's a solid, good patch. We're going to let that part sit over the winter and not pave this fall until it gets through one cycle, which usually allows us the benefit of seeing if there's any deficiencies in the paving and correct them before we put the top coat. We're still looking as to whether or not we will do the final wearing coat on the trench patch that was done prior to last year's winter, because that has already sat for one season. We'll be coming in and doing Addison and Durkee around the paver schedule in September. So we're waiting on that. Not our project, but the state was doing some paving in Laconia out in the weirs from the roundabout out to the Meredith line, and then starting at Lexington Drive on 106 and heading north up to Meredith. We have been in contact with the state, as some folks may have seen. There was something referred to as a extra adhesive asphalt, a different type of mix that they were using in some of the intersections on 106 that was sticking to some of the construction vehicle tires and wheel wells. And as they were braking at the traffic light at Oak Street in North Main, and also coming into Veterans Square, some of that was falling off. So we've made the state aware that we're expecting them to come in. While usually a little bit of extra asphalt, if laid properly, is good for the city to receive, this was falling off and not in a good spot. And then, as we had some hot days last week, it was actually melting a little bit, and we had to get down there with the a sanding truck and just put a little sand over to try to control it. But we have been in touch with the state, and they are fully aware of that. The final paving did get done over in the area of Mechanic and Clinton and those streets, and that project's looking really good. We did have an update on the long-awaited Native American sculpture. It's not perfect news, but supposedly it is in the process. All the pieces are made to it. So they did it with that 3D plastic molding type of thing. My understanding is that about half of the Indian is assembled, and the other pieces are coming as individual pieces for someone much smarter than me to assemble once the pieces get here. But it is en route, long awaited, and we'll be excited to see that. The monthly economic development report is also in your packet. The unemployment numbers, most recent ones for Laconia, the county, Concord, Manchester, and the state are all at 2% or less. You only have to ride down any street in Laconia and see the help wanted signs to tell you that. Inflation is still running very strong through the summer. So we were at 8.5% was the CPI number for July. That's one of the components in our tax cap calculation. So 6 months through the year, we've annualized inflation at a little over 8.3%. Following up on the Mayor Pro Tem's comments on the Timberman, just to share why I think the council in particular is excited about hosting this and it made an investment to support that in terms of economic development activity. As of last week, there were 1,357 people who were registered for the race. That's just about double where we were on the inaugural event last year. 1,076 are from the United States. We've got 262 coming from Canada, and less than 5, but coming from United Kingdom, Belgium, Chile, Bermuda, Mexico, France, Germany, Dominican Republic, Israel, New Zealand, and Ireland. So people do travel, and obviously they're staying for more than a day when they come to an event. I mean, they're bringing their dollars. They're as they say, they're putting heads in beds and supporting the local economy through where they're staying. There's also a breakdown, from the various counties that they're coming from. Middlesex County, Massachusetts, Suffolk County, Massachusetts, I believe as well, not New York, are big ones. A couple out of Canada, New York City, and then some other counties as well. As far as states go, the interesting thing was New Hampshire is only the 4th highest number of registrants for as far as the states go. So 144 of the 1,357 are from New Hampshire, around 10%. And again, we're drawing 320 from Massachusetts, 207 from Quebec, 158 from New York. Also high on the list, Connecticut, New Jersey, Maine, Pennsylvania, Ontario, Maryland, Vermont. So again, this is drawing people from near and far. And it really goes to show what kind of an economic driver this could be. And The other thing, then working with the mayor and our staff and the folks at Timberman, we did move this event to the third weekend in September, as opposed to the inaugural event last year was in August. Again, trying to extend the season. We're already pretty much full here in August, but to move this to that third week in September. Foliage hasn't quite kicked in and it's back to school, so there's less folks up here, vacationing. But it's I think a great slotted weekend for us to really hold a wonderful world-class event and be a showcase for people literally around the country and around the world. So that's a little bit of background for you.
Thank you. And the venue has changed. As far as it's not at Opeachy Park.
You've just the.
Some of it is.
Some of it is. So Opeachy Park is still the focus point for where the swimming takes place out and back on Opeachy. And the transition to the bicycles will still happen there. So you'll see the bike racks there. And when they finish the bike, they'll finish back at Opeachy and then they'll start the run from there. What has changed is what they refer to as the Athletes Village, where they have the registration and the store with all of the sponsor apparel and that type of stuff is going to take place in the large parking lot here in City Hall, which again, we view that as a positive and encourage that to happen because it draws those 1,400 race participants downtown, gets them out of their car, brings them here, and then hopefully they're populating, and frequenting some of the businesses and storefronts here in the downtown area. Opeachy worked great, but there was nothing more for them to do once they got their registration, they got in their car, and maybe we lost an opportunity to bring them downtown. So we think that this is an exciting aspect of it too, is to get all that foot traffic in the downtown for a couple of days in advance of that Sunday race.
Absolutely. Does council has anything, any of the other councilors had any comments or questions for the city manager? Scott, I have a couple. In reading the minutes of the water department, there was reference to Court Street Bridge and a discussion with the state. Is there a problem with the bridge or is that a financial?
What it is that
Use your
we're working
microphone,
out okay, we're working out the rebates and the financial
Okay.
finalization between what the state contributes and what we contribute. Okay, that's what's happening.
Okay, great. Scott, the other thing is, and this is by no means a criticism by any means, but Stewart Park has looked great, but there is that section that is right near the stone wall. It needs some attention.
We'll make a note of that.
And I'd also like to make a comment that if the thinking is that we're going to have a butterfly garden or an insect garden, I wish we would so note so that people know that, because I consider goldenrod a weed. So anyways, that's for that. But
And what are the milk pods or whatever they are too. I know that's a habitat for the monarch butterfly to do its things, but
like I said, it's not meant to be a criticism. And the other thing is that I haven't traveled so that I see all of the signs, but the welcoming signs in the south end have weathered the summer. And if I'd like to see if we could just spruce them up a little bit.
I saw the one on Court Street today and made a note of it to kind of clear that with a little bit of mowing. So consider that in the works.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilor Hamel.
Just a quick question, Scott, or an observation. Hopefully it's already been observed, but Messer Street Bridge, there's a huge, pretty large section of pavement that just shifted over to the side by where the drain is, the surface water drain. And it's like from the middle of the road over, and it's a pretty good sized area. Do we know what's going on there?
We've noticed that, and it's more prevalent now when the long line striping happened, and it really kind of highlights where it does this. We are doing work on Messer Street Bridge.
Yeah, we'll work on the issue now.
We're working that issue, but we've also got some work going on Messer Street Bridge in the near future. So not this season, but for next season. So
Okay. And just to do with Stewart Park there, where that bench is on the other side of the river, where they cut down all the brush and stuff that was growing there.
Mhm.
So you could see the seats there is growing back up again.
That's what I was,
Is that what you were talking about?
that's what I was referring to,
Okay.
Council.
Also, the entranceway to the south end of the city, there's a island there where there's supposed to be flowers or whatever, and it was very much overgrown. I didn't say anything, but somebody showed up with a lawnmower and just mowed it. So I wonder if we could address that going into the fall with some flowers and stuff.
Yeah, I think that was an adopt a spot at one point that somebody dropped in. It's just,
Yeah. Yeah, it's just
we've been challenged to keep up with all the little,
I think probably
islands
Wyatt
that we
Park
have.
at one time did
You're
that.
talking about the one down by Wyatt Park.
Right across
There's
from.
actually somebody that reached out to Parks and Rec and is going to take it
Right.
over. So,
yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you stop and think about how many little islands and grassy strips there are in the city that just, they're not full-blown parks, but the one up across from North Country Deli, that little grassy strip by the big park, you got to drive there, pop out a mower, go and mow, get it, there's a lot of those, but we'll make sure we address that.
yeah, that one's
Thank
already
you.
taken care of.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Scott. Under new business, item 21A is a temporary traffic order. Request to approve the Ironman Timberman 70.3 triathlon request for parking restrictions and road closures in connection with the triathlon on September 18th, 22nd. This request for a temporary traffic order for the Timberman Triathlon race to be held on September 18th. The event was approved at the Special Events Committee on August 3rd, 2022. Councilors will note that the requests and the maps are attached to the traffic order 2022-11. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Council Felch. Seconded by Councilor Susie. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Get the name.
He doesn't vote.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next, 21B is the sale of Lot 1 in the Lakes Business Park. The Lake Business Park Commission approved the sale of Lot number 1 in the Lakes Business Park at a meeting on July 6th, 2022, and contingent upon the approval of the Guilford Board of Selectmen and the Laconia City Council. The offer of Lot 1 was received by Fat Boy Coal LLC, Steve Olson and Kara Olson in the amount of $165,000. The use of the lot would be consistent with the Lakes Business Park covenants. The business and sales agreement is attached. The motion is I approve the vote of the Lake Business Park Commission for the sale of Lot 1 in the Lakes Business Park in the amount of $165,000 and to authorize the city manager to sign the document in connection with the sale. Do I have a motion?
No question.
We need a motion for us.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Counselor Susie, seconded by Counselor Hamel. Counselor Susie.
I have a question, Mr.
Discussion.
Manager.
Mhm.
What is how many are left? How many lots are left?
We're getting ready to close on one with Stafford Oil. This one is in the process of doing the due diligence, and this LLC name is Laconia Refrigeration on Walker Street. They've just outgrown their space there, and they're moving out to the park. And there's one more lot that we just received an offer on that the commission has not met yet, but we're in the process of scheduling a meeting. So if you take those three out of the mix, I'm going to say there's maybe 4 or 5 lots that are left out there. And they do tend to be a little bit more of a challenging lots as far as some of them have real steep grade as they come off of Hounslow Ave, and maybe a little bit more site work involved in when folks go to develop those lots. And we actually have one more that the council is preliminary talking about with the second person. So I'm going to say if all those go through, which I don't see why they wouldn't, we probably have 4 lots that are left.
My question comes into the Stafford Oil one. Is that something where they're going to be storing petrochemicals?
They are putting a propane tank farm in there. So Stafford recently got into the propane business. So they're going to be putting a large, I forget if it's 2 or I want to say it's 2 30,000 gallon tanks, a small workhouse building type of thing, nothing elaborate. They'll be getting a couple of deliveries a week of the large tankers coming in there. And then probably 4 or 5 trips, maybe 2 or 3 times a day from the small little, I forget the name of what they called those trucks. I learned that day, but those little rounded propane trucks will pop in and out of there. And they'll use both ends of Hounslow Lab, depending obviously on which delivery route they're coming. We don't know exactly which route that the large tankers will be coming. It'll depend on who gets the contract with Stafford and where they're delivering out of. So if they're coming from the, one of the Seacoast suppliers down in the Newington area or something, they'd probably come up 11 and use the Pichet's entrance. If they were coming from somewhere else, they might use the other entrance. But those larger tractor trailer type of vehicles are probably going to be no more than 2 or 3 a week and very limited out there.
One more
Go
additional
ahead,
question.
Councilor Susie.
This is to the chief. Chief, is there certain regulations in regards to, they move those big trucks in and out of that area? I'm just.
We
Fire side.
these,
Pull the mic.
if they're gonna move up there, Stafford's actually looked at a few different locations. And for safety standpoints, I think it's the ideal location of all the choices they looked at. As they have with any of the other, even oil farms in town, they all are highly regulated, highly inspected, and we shouldn't have any issues. As far as the large trucks moving in and out of town, we've had in different times tried to not have them come through, but our major roads that come through town are state highways. So it's very difficult for us to say, no, you can't go there. Now, certainly Hounslow and those wouldn't be, but they'd be coming off of highways technically. So not a whole lot we can do with restricting of them, but we've been, I hate to say being fortunate, but we've been fortunate. We haven't had any issues, and we see them go up through Main Street all, quite often. So I don't foresee there being any issues.
Thank you.
Yep.
And the remaining lots, like I said, maybe there might be one in what was originally phase 1 of Lakes Business Park that still is in Laconia. The remainder of the lots are on the Guilford side of the development and subject to Guilford Planning Board review and regulation and zoning and all that. And the park has its own covenants. And obviously, as the chief mentioned, there's ample water supply out there, which is why a company like Stafford wants to have that facility where you've got a good water
I
supply.
think it's been a very wise investment, you may say, by both Laconia and Guilford to keep that open, but you can do more of it. Thank you.
It's taken a little time, but yes, it's grown up and it's some of you folks know George Bald, who also serves on the state school commission. But George was involved in the Pease Development Authority when Pease Air Force Base closed in the late 80s and developed, and it started figuring out what it was going to be as a business park in the early 1990s. And everybody looks at now and says, what a great success story. And it is, but I could just picture George saying this. George will say it's the greatest success story that happened over 20 years. Not the greatest, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's a good success story, but the Lakes Business Park, the same thing. The councils years ago, both from here and in the select board of Guilford, saw the wisdom in putting some line and land in use and put together opportunities for businesses to relocate or expand. As is a lot of the cases, we've seen companies start smaller and grow bigger out there, and to be able to retain those companies here in the region and support jobs and families and the economy is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, it wasn't a popular decision way back when.
No.
Scott, does this have the approval of the Guilford Board of Selectmen? Or is this
It
contingent?
needs to
upon-
have it. I don't know whether they've actually gotten it and voted on it yet, but yes,
That's just what I
it needs both bodies to approve it.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Is there any other discussion, please? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes. Thank you. Next on the agenda, item 21C is the sidewalk performer guidelines. The city occasionally has received inquiries and requests from individuals regarding whether a license or a permission is needed to perform music or otherwise present their talents in a public space or on the sidewalk, etc. While not wanting to overregulate this activity, having some guidelines in place to share the city's expectations would be helpful to both the staff and the performers. Please refer to the attached City of Laconia sidewalk performer guidelines that has been previously distributed to the council for their review. We feel that it is appropriate for the street performers to add charm to the community and would like to be able to welcome them to share their skills and talent with our residents and our visitors. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Counselor Felch, Counselor Cheney, discussion. Scott, should I go into detail and read?
Even if you want to hit on a few of the key points, they're mostly common sense, but a couple of the key bullet points would, I think, just be appropriate.
Okay, for the audiences, for the audience and the citizens, the highlights of it, street performers are welcome on pedestrian public spaces and city-owned parks. There shall be no amplification. Be considerate to the volume. Ensure that the content of the performance is appropriate. Not to block sideways, doorways, windows, handicap ramps, and not to interfere with any ADA compliance. No selling of merchandise or signs requesting donations. An open suitcase, a guitar case, et cetera, and so on. To accept unsolicited money would be great. The participants are not to interfere with the Pumpkin Festival, the multicultural festivals, without permission from the organizer prior to the event. To ensure that public safety is utmost at all times, and that any litter or anything created by their performance or bystanders would be their responsibility to take care of it at their departure time. Yes, Councilor Hamel.
Scott, I mean, there's no license needed or any of that kind of stuff. So, but do they still have to come to City Hall to say I'm going to be on Main Street? Or
No, and that's why we wanted to be able to have something that if someone wasn't in compliance, that we could say, hey, these are our guidelines for being here. But I don't think most people know if they just want to sit in the park and play a guitar for passersby. We don't really want to make them say, well, you got to go to City Hall first, and then do you get a permit or do you get a?
About this, that so they know what the kind of.
Well, I think we get the word out. Police officers will have some in their patrol cars. Folks on the parks and recreation staff will have some available if Public Works runs into that. So if we don't see it a lot, but it's just that people call and say, hey, what do I need to do? And it's usually Nancy just kind of reciting these things. We just thought it would be good to formalize it and not over-regulate and make it too difficult because, someone sitting on the boardwalk or someone sitting in the park,
It'll be on the
Good idea.
website for them to find.
Yes.
Good idea.
Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next on the agenda is allocation of 2023 ARP funds for previously identified projects, during the year 2023 budget preparations process, the city manager proposed certain projects be funded through the anticipated 2023 American Rescue Plan funds. These are listed in the table below, and I will read them for the meeting. Police security fence, $134,555. Resurface of city parking lot, $1,650,000. $100,000. I'm sorry. DPW garage vehicle lift, $60,000. North Boardwalk engineering, $15,000. Surface of Memorial Park tennis court, $49,400. Police radar equipment, $16,000. ADA transition plan, $30,000. The Weirs Community Center doors, $20,000. Wyatt Park ADA improvements, $11,000. Code office renovations, $50,000. Support of the Ironman event 2023, $15,000. Police surveillance cameras, $54,000. Colonial Condo Association fee, $43,788. IT security enhancements, $50,000. Oakland North Main Street traffic signal camera, $22,300 for the total of $671,693. On July 29th, 2022, the Governor's Office for Emergency Relief and Recovery confirmed Laconia's 2023 ARP funding in the amount of $867,929.53. The acceptance of these funds was included in the anticipated grants portion of the resolution 2022-08 and the fiscal year 23 budget resolution. A public hearing was held for the resolution 2022-08 on June 13th, 2022. The approval of this motion would commit $671,693 in previous accepted 2023 ARP funds towards certain projects as recommended by the city manager, leaving an uncommitted balance of $196,236.53. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Counselor Cheney, Counselor Susie, second. Discussion. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So you notice maybe a couple of these numbers have changed or look a little bit unique because we've actually gone out to bid on a couple of these projects, and these are now firm numbers that we've presented here. The police security fence came in a little bit higher than we anticipated, but the resurfacing of City Hall parking lot and the Memorial Park tennis court resurfacing came in less than we anticipated. So we reflected the actual there to do that. There is one new project I'd like to bring to your attention. It's the last one on the list, the Oakland North Main traffic signal camera. We had a major failure on that and allowing the turning operations and sensing the vehicles. And that money was not anticipated. We didn't know it was going to go, and it wasn't in the budget you just approved. So with some of the savings that we've identified from the City Hall lot and the tennis court projects, that is something that's there for that you have not seen before. So I just want to bring that to your attention.
Scott, I noticed that's been repaired. So they took out all the cameras and they just got the one fisheye there now.
Yeah, just the one. Yeah.
So then this money we use to pay for that update.
Yeah, it'll make it complete and working.
Okay. Yeah.
Properly.
It seems to be working fine.
Yeah.
Because
Again, it was not, it was not an anticipated expense, so we got it repaired, but that's a big hit to take in the budget this early in the season.
Thank you, Scott. Counselor Felch.
Yeah, can you explain what the Colonial Condo Association fees are, where they go, what they're for?
So now that the Colonial has several components to it, the money that we pay to Spectacle on a monthly basis to manage the property, the money that we pay on the loan for the bonding that we did for the property. We receive a payment from Belknap EDC, and all of that washes out. The last piece that just came together when the final condo association documents went together, because there's 3 condominiums, if you will, within the scope of that whole project. One is the Colonial Theater and the lobby and the Canal Street side and anything that's related to the theater. The second condominium, if you will, is the 4 storefronts along Main Street. And those could be further subdivided if it was 4 different owners into a subdivision just of that condo. And then the third condominium piece was the residential units, the 9 units. So once that all got formulated, we didn't have number for it, but that's what we refer to as the common area maintenance charge. So when you look at the theater, there's things like insurance and routine maintenance, and whether there's any shoveling, or in this case, there's no lawn or green space to be mowing or doing that type of stuff, but it's all the common area. The lion's share of it is the insurance. And you can think about looking at that building. It's mostly city-owned type of stuff. So in all condominiums, they have that component of common area maintenance. And this is the city's condo fee, if you will, within the scope of those 3 condominiums. So this will be paid for if approved tonight, and then that will need to be built into the budget because that'll be a recurring expense going forward. It's just as part of routine operations. We just didn't know the number or have any number to plug in the budget this year.
Anyone else? Okay. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes. Thank you, Katie. Next on the agenda is the first reading of Resolution 2022-11, authorizing the acceptance and appropriation of $44,400 for replacement of the water main on Weirs Boulevard to request, to schedule a public hearing on September 12th, 2022. On July 10th, 2018, the planning board.
If you like, Mayor Pro Tem, I can give you a Reader's Digest rather than reading the whole thing.
Okay.
If that would help you.
All for that.
Okay.
It is quite lengthy.
Yes, so this is the Langley Cove development happening on Weirs Boulevard with Brady Sullivan. You've got an extra sheet that came out that was not available, that came on your desk tonight. So you can see the planning board notice of decision of what the developer was required to do for work to perform in conjunction with the planning board approval. So it's to replace 1,900 feet of water line. So the dollar value is there at the $1,044,000. So this is basically Brady Sullivan is going to provide that money to the city, and the city is going to oversee the construction with our contractors. And there's some protections in place that you can see in the letter behind that, that is signed off on by Brady Sullivan. And again, it'll be our project, but if materials go up, there's some protections in place for us to be able to go in and not be taking a hit if the $1,044,000 doesn't turn out to be the end number, but it's the scope of work to it. And we've already got firms who come in and bid units and contract work with us anyway. So that's the long and short of it, and what you're doing, because this money was not anticipated when we put the budget together, to move it to a public hearing and to be able to accept these funds so that the city can expend them for that purpose.
Okay, thank you, Scott. There are three motions on part of this. The first motion is I move to waive reading a resolution of its entirety and read by title only. Councilor Cheney.
Second.
Councilor Felch. Madam Clerk. I'm sorry, excuse me. Is there any discussion? Okay, I'm sorry. I have to ask that. Go ahead. Katie.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes.
Counselor Susie.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Thank you. The second part is I move for a first reading of resolution 2022-11, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of $1,044,400 for the replacement of water main on Weirs Boulevard and appropriate the funds for the same. Councilor Susie, Councilor Cheney seconds. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes.
Counselor Susie.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on is 21F, the appointment. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to get ahead of myself here. The third part, I move to schedule a public hearing, thank you, Councilor Susan, on September 12th, 2022, during the regular city council meeting to gather input prior to the adoption.
So moved.
Councilor Felch. Councilor Cheney. Any discussion? Seeing none. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes.
Counselor Susie.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes,
Counselor Hamel.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
thank you. Okay, now we get on to item 21F. Per the City of Laconia Charter, this is an appointment for selectmen vacancies. Per the Laconia City Charter, section 2.05, all vacancies in the office of moderator, ward clerk, or selectman shall be filled by the city council. An appointment will be valid until the end of December 2023, after the next city election of November 2023. The council is requested to consider the following appointments. Mr. Rick Wilson for Selectman of Ward 1. Appointment of Robert Harrington, Selectman of Ward 2. The appointment of Jane LaRoche, the Selectman for Ward 3. Appointment of Ruth Hera, O'Hara, I'm sorry, for selectmen for Ward 5. Before we take a motion, I would make a point that there are vacancies in Ward 4 too. I need a motion, please. Councilor Cheney. Councilor Susie, is there any discussion? Okay. Seeing none. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Thank you. Council is now into unfinished business. This is the first reading of ordinance 2022-235-41 I'm sorry, amending chapter 235 zoning section 41 to add a new section N relating to home gardens and related amendments to table 1, table of permitted uses, and request a public hearing at the August 8th, 2022 City Council meeting. The council was presented with an amendment of the zoning ordinance which approved would allow the property of residential single family or residential general RG and residential single family, I don't want to repeat myself, but refer to RS, to have a maximum of 2 sheep and 2 goats. At the meeting of the council, referred the matter to the Government Operations Ordinance Committee for review. The Government Ordinance and Operation Committee met on August 15th, 2022. It was a consensus of the committee was recommend to the full council that the ordinance previously presented be amended to remove the reference allowing 2 sheep, 2 goats in RS or RG zones, and to amend the percentage of cultivation area for home gardens from 20% to 25%. The attached ordinance of 2022, 235-41N, has been amended to reflect those. I will need a motion, please. Councilor Cheney? Councilor Felch?
You've got 3 motions I think we should follow on the bottom of the page.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. The first one is to move and waive the reading of the ordinance in entirety and read by title only. Councilor Cheney, Councilor Felch. Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Okay, the second part is I move the first reading of ordinance 235-41N, amending chapter 235 zoning section 41 to add a new section N relating to agriculture in residential zones and related amendment to table 1, the table of permitted use as presented.
So move.
Councilor Felch, Councilor Cheney, discussion. Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Madam Clerk, I believe Councilor Susie has left for a minute.
He'll be back in a moment.
Got one more.
Okay. Last part, I move to schedule a public hearing on September 12th, 2022, during the regular city council meeting to gather input prior to any action being taken. Councilor Cheney, Councilor Hamel, any discussion?
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Susie,
Yes.
Counselor Hamel,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. 22B is the sale of unique property located at 22 Indian Path, tax map 180/516/15. The city acquired a parcel of land by tax deeding in 1994.
Mayor Pro Tem, if you like, I could give you the same offer of giving you the Reader's Digest version.
How can I refuse?
It's a lot of reading.
It's a
there.
page and a
It's
half.
a page and a
Thank you
half,
very much.
yes.
Okay,
So
thank you.
So if the council recalls, this was a lot that the city took for tax deeding purposes back in the early to mid 90s somewhere. And it basically is a lot that is a community beach that is either deeded or maybe by prescriptive rights belongs to 40 to 50 homeowners out in the area of Pickerel Cove, the Harglen, Hillcroft, Bobby's Way area. Although the beach itself sits down, you have to go through Birch Haven, which is a private road, and then the Indian Path to get to it. So years later, the group wanted to purchase it so that they could control their own beach and operate it as they see fit, because right now where the city owns it, nothing can occur on the beach, even though those folks have the deeded rights and they're the only ones in the whole community. It's not a city beach, even though the city owns it. And knowing that whoever owns it needs to recognize all of the rights of folks who have it in deed or prescriptive rights to it. We took the vote. I brought a proposal to the council to declare it a unique property so we could dispose of it in a manner other than we traditionally do with tax deed sales. The council approved that. We were moving to sell it to the Pickerel Cove Association because they had an established group. And there was some concern after the vote. The folks at Bobby's Way didn't feel included or didn't know about it and what was going to happen. So I let the council know that I heard it loud and clear. We kind of put a hold on transferring any ownership. In the interim, we encouraged all the parties to get together and figure out a structure for how it, who would own it and what that entity would look like, and how they may or may not be able to work with the folks on Birch Haven who have a gated private road that provides the only vehicular land access to that property. So over the winter and through the spring, various efforts were made, including a meeting that the mayor and I sat in 200B, the room next door, for about an hour and a half back in June, with all interested parties and one attorney. One street brought an attorney in with them and encouraged them to get together and work this out. The folks on Hillcroft and Harglen actually sent out a survey, which you can see on page 46, the second page of your attachment, of the 50 or so, 48 or 50 folks that were, I believe, to be identified to have property rights or beach rights here. They received responses back from 40 of those properties, which was a 77% return on their survey request, if you will. And the overwhelming majority of those folks wanted the beach returned to them and or have an association that would decide the future of what could happen on the beach. Can they have a dock? Could they have a day dock? Could they put a maintenance shed? Would they have a kayak rack? Would they be able to assess some small dues in order to do that? So that's the background. Just looking at the numbers, it seems like that's an overwhelming number of respondents to it. So that information was brought forward. You can see there that they are forming a new neighborhood association inclusive of all of these properties, which would be known as the Paugus Bay Beach Association. So the motions before you tonight are to move this to a public hearing. I will share with you, and I do not have firsthand knowledge of this. We put the agenda together on Wednesday and into Thursday. I heard after the fact that maybe one of the streets there now doesn't want to be involved in this group, and they may change their mind and come in with some kind of a different proposal. Nobody has reached out to me as a courtesy and shared that with me. I've heard that from boots on the street, so to speak. So I have nothing firm to share with you. You're not taking action on it tonight. Anybody who's called and said what's happening, I said it's the only action the council would be taking tonight is to move this to a public hearing in 3 weeks, and that would be a perfect opportunity to come down. So I don't want you to be caught off guard if at that hearing someone else comes and says, well, we said that, but now never mind, we want to do this. But that's the most current, accurate information as I know it. And again, I've encouraged all parties who have an interest in this to come to the September 12th meeting.
Thank you, Scott.
Maybe that wasn't so brief after all, but.
There you go. There are two motions to this. I move to accept the written recommendation to the city manager, the tax map lot 180/516/15 has unique characteristics, and understand it will be the intent of the city to enter into a negotiated sale of the property with Paugus Bay Beach Association, a single private purchaser for $1. I need a motion.
You're just moving to the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
That's the intent of.
I'll make the motion.
Council Felch,
I'll second.
Councilor Susie. Is there any discussion?
That was Councilor Cheney.
Seeing none. Second part is I move to schedule a public, we already did.
First.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I'm sorry, Katie. Roll call.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes, I'll get this eventually.
You will.
Counselor Hamel.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Okay. The second part, have we done? So we need to do this. I move to schedule a public hearing on September 12th, 2022 to receive public comment on the proposed sale of unique property located on 20 Indian Path, tax map 180/516/15.
So move.
Second.
Counselor Felch, Counselor Hamel seconds. Yes.
Yes.
Madam Clerk. Is there any discussion?
She's good.
I'm just trying to.
She's good.
Madam Clerk.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susie.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Hamel.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item 22C is the Taylor Community's request for a rehearing of the city council's previous discussion to grant a petition to lay out Cottonwood Avenue cul-de-sac. I'm going to try to give you the Reader's Digest version here. Please, Attorney Counselor Christopher Cole, legal counsel for the Taylor community, requested the city council grant a rehearing of their June 27th, 2022 decision granting the petition to lay out Cottonwood Avenue cul-de-sac. At the June 27th meeting, the council unanimously approved a motion as shown below. Scott, should I read the thing? And I don't mind.
I don't think you need to. I mean, it's a matter of the record. It's more just for reference of what the motion was, but it's certainly that motion of that day. If anybody wants to review it, is there. You certainly could, though, it just on the side of sharing information.
Okay. I think for clarification purposes, we will. City Councilor Lippman made a motion that they grant the petition to lay out Cottonwood Drive cul-de-sac as petitioned by Nancy Edelson and to find any occasion to do so exists for the following reasons. First, important to note that it is being asked to decide between the cul-de-sac it is presently exists on the ground and the T or hammer head proposed by the Taylor community, nor are we accepting dedication of the cul-de-sac. They have been asked to lay out the public cul-de-sac over the existing private road cul-de-sac, while Taylor community has granted permission for the city and the public to utilize the public road. That permission may be withdrawn for anyone other than Ms. Edelson at any time. There were 6 reasons that were laid out. The cul-de-sac will integrate well with the existing road system. It was dedicated to the public use in 1987 and was first, in fact, been used as part of the existing road system for decades, with the city maintaining it until 2022 with no objection from the Taylor community. Second, the layout of the cul-de-sac will result in improvement to convenient traffic. Without the cul-de-sac, there is no area for any car to turn around at the dead end of Cottonwood Drive. Third was the layout of the cul-de-sac will facilitate transportation of school children because it will provide a place for school buses to turn around at the end of Cottonwood Drive. 4 was the layout of cul-de-sac will result in improved and more efficient accessibility for fire, ambulance, emergency, and police services to serve the city at large where seconds count. and it is well served to support more efficient removal of snow removal and the public works services. 5, the cul-de-sac is laid out and is anticipated that it will be used daily. 6, the layout of the cul-de-sac will cause the city to incur only minimum additional yearly costs for maintaining the road, as evidenced by the city's maintenance of the cul-de-sac between 1987 and 2021. Is there any one? Well, first of all, is there anyone that has any questions as to what was laid out in the original motion?
Nope.
Hearing none, I think it's in our interest just to deny the request.
You would be seeking that motion then, yes, to deny the request.
So as it sits, we're going to deny, the council will deny the request for a rehearing. I need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Hamel?
Yeah.
Seconded by Councilor Phelps. Is there any discussion? I hear silence. Madam Clerk?
Counselor
Scott,
Cheney?
excuse me, do we have to take a vote?
Yes, the request was for the rehearing,
Okay.
and you're going to say
All
you're
right.
going to deny the request for the rehearing.
Excuse me, Madam Clerk?
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Hamel?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, is there any other business to come before the council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, we are adjourned at 8:11.
Nice job, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
Yes, very seriously,
Mark.
yes.
Good job. Well done. Good night.